Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I am your host, Justin Dixon, and today we've got Marc Pickren on the podcast. He is the CEO of Springbot, which is an AI powered marketing platform. It's a really interesting episode because we dig into kind of Marc's entrepreneurial journey. He's been a multi time turnaround CEO for small and mid sized businesses. But we dig into Springbot, why he bought it, why he decided to buy the business himself and take over 51% equity in the business, the structure that he's kind of implemented to do that takeover, and also talked about how he's been doing some tuck-ins and some roll-ups to kind of continue to build out Springbot's product offering. We also talk about some creative non-dilutive financing options that he's uncovered that startup founders can utilize to raise money without diluting their capital table. So really cool episode. So let's get Marc on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Marc, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being on.
Hey, it's great to be here, Justin.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in. I guess give everybody that's listening and watching a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to right now.
Wow, who I am, where I am, and what I'm up to right now.
Simple questions.
Yeah. I mean, that's loaded. Marc Pickren. I've been known over the last 10 years as a turnaround CEO in software companies between 5 and 50 million. And I've worked across marketing automation, digital technologies, AI, and fintech. And then prior to that, I'd held some corporate positions, but also have been an entrepreneur several times. I've got a couple of patents, and I'm in Austin. I've made some trips around the country in terms of living a little bit in Florida of late, but primarily Texas. And what I'm up to right now, in February of this year, I wanted to maybe not do the venture capital institutional investor thing, and so I personally acquired a 51% stake in a company called Springbot. And we've done, as a total roll-up or tuck-in of a total of 3 companies now, and we've been in business going on about 10 months. So having a blast, but also doing some really interesting things like a Reg CF offering, and also looking at some other acquisitions. So just really all in on the AI super system. And trying to build that modern unicorn, whatever that looks like today.
Got it. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, I guess, but let's start kind of in the more recent. So what is Springbot? How did you kind of find it? And then kind of talk about the roll up tuck in strategy, because that is a popular kind of private equity venture capital mode or move that they do, buy a platform and then acquire other similar or adjacent companies. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it came to me through one of the investors. So Outbound Engine was a company that I came on board and turned around, and we sold in 2021. And so I do have a pretty extensive relationship with not only local or Texas-based VCs, but also across the country. And one of my investors that came in on our C+ round approached me, mid last year and said, "Hey, I've got this company. It's one of our portfolio companies, and they're thinking about and they basically are looking for kind of new ownership." And he knew kind of my background and the teams that I've been able to put together, and so we were able to execute the deal at the end of January, and at the same time, I was able to tuck in a digital, kind of a digital agency, but more product based, and kind of brought those two together. And so, as far as like the market today, like in 2024, it was the highest call down rates by venture capitals to their limited partners. And what that means is, with the cost of capital going from free during COVID and after COVID, to now your cost of capital for an entrepreneurial venture is around 16 to 24%. Obviously, that it's had a very serious impact to a lot of the startups that accepted venture capital money during that period of time. And then additionally, the old model of well, first of all, everybody started punching above their weight. So angel investors were now acting like VCs. VCs were acting like private equity. Private equity, mid-market firms were acting like the big guys and gals. So you have a lot of companies out there that were given probably more money than they even knew what to do with or even needed. Yep. And we're told, go spend it and basically acquire customers and prove your product out. The challenge is you fast forward, now capital is expensive. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
No, we got a little dog on the show. No, that's he's excited about these call downs.
Dogs, and normally I put them away, so I do apologize for that.
No
but anyways, so that's kind of the market, and so I was in a position to where I could kind of do these acquisitions myself, and and we have no debt. We're growing at about 130%. And we're EBITDA, as well as we touch a little net income positive as well. So really running the business more as a cash basis and being very judicious and practical with how we go about our acquisitions.
And with Springbot, so you bought this 51% yourself. Did the previous CEO / founder, if they were still there, did they exit at that point, or were you kind of buying out the position of a VC or private equity group? Like how did the capital table kind of restructure post your acquisition?
Yeah, so the challenge with Springbot was that it was a 12-year-old company, and so you had a lot of investors that had even those funds that they had invested in, $15 million, was like, those funds have been closed. They're on to 2 or 3 other funds. And so in those circumstances, and I'm used to dealing with a lot of investors or boards that are pretty long in the tooth with their investment. I mean, imagine going to board meetings for like 6 or 7 years. It's a lot. And so in that scenario, what we did was we did what's called a forward merger. And so we merged the company into a new co. All of the cap table was basically, I would say right sized. And then everybody took a dilution based on me coming in for the majority ownership. And so basically that's kind of how we did that. And then that forward merger business now is kind of the platform for which to bring on other companies. But we haven't brought on, everything I'm doing is trying to be non-dilutive as much as we possibly can. And so, and then the investors are kind of moved on to some other things, but there's very light preferences for them based on, they put in a sizable amount of cash, let's say, within the last 2 years. So we just assign that more or less as the preference for them. So, which makes total sense.
No, that's interesting. I hadn't heard of the forward merger kind of strategy or execution. Is kind of an interesting kind of structure that you put together there, and it sounds like it was, unfortunately, the investors that got in super early didn't get probably the returns that they were promised back, in the day, but at least they probably got some of it, and they're still, involved in the business, albeit on a more, dilutive kind of structure than what they might have been, but better than, you know, losing all their money, I guess, from their standpoint.
Yeah,
So
and I think the investors, you're really, and the investors are good guys and gals. There's a lot of variance. Most of them are more Northeast and Southeast,
mm,
and they have a little different mentality than your even Austin or West Coast kind of VCs. And
yeah,
so I think that they really want the business to be successful, even at a just an emotional level, I guess. I don't know
right,
that that's the right term, but yeah,
yeah,
I mean, it's look, seasons are long, and we've all been through a lot. So yeah, maybe you didn't do as well 5 years in or 10 years in, but that doesn't mean that at year 15 it can actually all pay off
right.
in terms of if you get the right.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So we talked a little about the structure and how you kind of came about Springbot, but what is the company, and how do you, and then what do you think about, the tuck-ins that you've been doing, and kind of your path forward now that you've been, under the, legs under the desk for almost a year now?
Yeah, so number one, we're Springbot is comprised in terms of different revenue streams. So the critical piece is always about making sure that you do what you can do in terms of making sure that your financial model matches up, and that you can set a financial model and a plan, and then to be able to execute against that plan. So we have one, let's call it a product, which is reoccurring marketing is the name of it in our financial plan, but largely that is demand generation for B2B companies that have embedded sales teams and have typically been in business for more than 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
And we're really addressing the pain point that it's just super freaking difficult to do B2B sales when nobody has a phone, and people are using, life's remote control every single day to kind of manage their lives. And so we use a combination of mass email, cold email infrastructure, and then the identity matrix that we just acquired in terms of doing website identification. And it's all about really trying to end slow sales months for good, and being able to create dependable pipeline without taxing kind of the internal resources. Then we have a email platform that's focused more on the SMB space, and that email platform delivers about 50 million emails per month, and has been in business for about 12 years. And then now we have Identity Matrix, which is the website identification. And then we have kind of an a la carte marketing services in a more subscription model. So these
Okay.
all kind of work. You go from micro SMB to SMB to mid-market to enterprise. And then there's cross-selling opportunities across each of those. And then as you graduate customers further up the stream,
Yeah.
then there's a different set of services that go to them, but they're all sold as subscriptions and kind of dependable, finite type in those subscriptions. So, people are really leery of any sort of like purchase that could be $5,000 to $100,000 in a month. They want to know, hey, I could budget $8,000 for this. I could do a 3 to 5 month pilot, and
Yeah.
then we can go into a subscription.
And then I guess as you like, how big is the company now that you've kind of rolled in these other two? I'm just kind of curious about like size wise.
I mean, we're not past the 10 million threshold, but we're in that lower to middle, you know, 7 figures, 8 figures.
Yeah.
I lose.
Too many
Six
zeros.
figures used to be a big deal, and now
That's
it's
right.
um.
And then
So
how many people are there?
so that's kind of that's the magic is for about 2 years now. I've been kind of deploying these. Well, over the last 8 years, I've deployed playbooks in doing these turnarounds. And really, our services or our products are really just a codification of codifying those playbooks. And so we've traditionally used and used a variable cost model. So, don't get me on my AI subject, but like if you're, it's just become very difficult to maintain full-time employees with the unpredictability of kind of revenue flows and as you're kind of pivoting into different things. And so I was just actually doing this exercise. I think we have around 7 full-time people and then like a group of about 22 variable cost model contractors that some of them are full-time and we pay every 2 weeks and some of them are just on a basis.
Got it.
The goal is 10 people, $100 million.
10 full-time people or 10
full-time employees, 10 people, $100 million. That's the new unicorn. So
okay. And how many AI agents and bots are part of that 10-person company?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So we use N8N and have a full AI stack, and even on a client by client basis, we may build 6 to 7 custom agents just for their individual use case, and those are custom ones built on a platform of got to be hundreds.
Yeah. And what are some of the agents that you're building? Like, what are the typical use cases that they're doing? Like, what is their job as the agent, which is helping that end customer maybe not have to hire new people, maybe not have to, or maybe can reduce their staff, or just make their team better, right? Like, what are the typical agents that you see these SMB and mid-market companies really leveraging?
Well, I mean, first of all, marketing. But then if you break down marketing into data, so we're in a cookieless world. We're in a situation where website traffic, with the rise of the answer engines, is down 50% across the board. And so really on the marketing side, a lot of it starts with data enrichment and data analysis and intent tracking. So, we've all seen on LinkedIn, the 50 people that publish, hey, I just took my $10 million company down to no employees and I have only agents, and text, AI in the comments and I'll send you the playbook.
Right.
Then you say, yeah, AI, and then they send you a playbook, and basically it's just a bunch of Notion document, and it's not something that you can directly act on. And so really it focuses much more on the data enrichment, the data analysis for right fit customers, whether it's on the sales side or who you're marketing to and who you're selling to. And then as those come in, then you're talking about like intelligent business agents as product experts that can engage with customers, not do selling, but just be like answer questions about the product in a non-salesy way with no commission incentive. And then being able to have that agent do a live lead handoff to a human salesperson once it gets to that point. And then, from a financial perspective, I mean, agents across the board, like, nobody really runs credit checks on their customers anymore, but it's super important to do that now. And there's some ways in which you can do some non-invasive, like non-D&B stuff, but you can say, hey, this is a right fit customer, as opposed to paying an SDR to do these 15-minute qualification calls that, basically you could have answered those questions. You could have just run a data check and found out who I am.
Got it. And I'm just curious, you don't need to give me specific pricing, but like to build a custom agent for, let's say, data analysis or data enrichment, like what is the typical cost, or you kind of already have these pre-built and then you can just deploy them pretty instantly to your customer because it's an AI agent? You can just say replicate and kind of, copy paste almost, which is, it's more difficult than that. But, yeah, how does that work?
So it's in what we call our programmatic prospecting, which is this kind of B2B lead generation, demand generation, ABM, whatever search phrase I want to be targeting today.
Right.
Really it's about that we already have the embedded agents, and then it's kind of the customization of those agents based on that particular use case. And then we do a full, with us, you get infrastructure. So we build out hundreds of email addresses and domains that are warmed up that allow you to land in the inbox. We do an immersion to where we spend 2 hours with your teams. We download all of your sales conversations, everything else into an agent. Then you can go and talk to that agent and say, I need you to write email copy that's spam, doesn't go into spam, et cetera, et cetera. So we do like end-to-end solution from the art and science of like, client acquisition. And then, so that, and then, typically we price it at like, for a fairly large company with maybe 60,000, the current lead database, and maybe 10 to 15 salespeople, you're probably looking at about $12,000 to get set up.
Got it.
We charge $6,000 at signing, $6,000 when we launch, and we launch 3 weeks and 1 day from when we start. And then it goes on monthly billing of anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 or $9,000, and that includes everything.
Got it. You mentioned something earlier about web traffic being down, and I do a lot of work with like B2B SaaS companies, and the conversation is always around pipeline, and we're not able to build as much pipeline, especially for like enterprise sales and things like that. Because a lot of times, typically you just increase your ad spend, and that would then increase your lead gen, and then you'd be able to just increase the pipeline. I guess, what are you seeing because web traffic is down and people are doing search on AI? Like, what are some of the things that SaaS companies can do and just other B2B companies can do to kind of build a more robust and more predictable pipeline in this world of, AI and all that?
I mean, for me, coming into turnaround situations, we obviously had to be extremely cash and capital efficient. And the challenge with paid media is that these ecosystems are, locking down because they're all threatened by AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so the challenge is I've never really, and then there is so much synthetic traffic. I mean, the amount of, so if you're a CMO, my CMOs would come into our executive meetings and be like, hey, look, we got 10,000 more email signups than we did last year in November. And I'm like, okay, well, how many deals came from last November? I don't know. So why are we getting more of these if we don't even know that they're actually doing it? And so, you have to get away from this conventional wisdom that you put people into sequences, you give them a little nugget up front, then they're going to go through, and then they're going to eventually nurture them. There is no more nurturing. You get like 2 shots to make your message. You better be upfront with your pricing and straight up. And then you pretty much need to just go back to re-earn that first or second introduction. Nobody is I have 15,900 unopened emails in my Google promotions, and we've only been in business 9 months.
Yeah.
There's like banking stuff in there. Nobody so a lot of it really, I mean, we can't unpack it on this call, but there are ways in which you can fully leverage better leverage the levers that you have traditionally used, but also really understanding what you can't just go off of traffic metrics and lead form signups and all of this stuff, because there is so much synthetic traffic.
Yeah.
fake people coming to the site to do nefarious things that appear to be a real person and may have actually even clicked on one of your ads in order to get to your site. So a lot of it really has to be with just really deep diving on all of these, what I call vanity metrics, and finding out what are the metrics that are actually telling you something that can be useful to converting to a revenue op.
Without getting too deep into this, I guess kind of trying to weed out the vanity metrics to actually look at the metrics that are going to, drive pipeline, drive revenue. If you're, if a CMO is listening to this, or a CEO who's frustrated with pipeline, like, what's a metric or one or two metrics that after you've distilled them down at other clients, that is like, hey, here's the things that you should be looking at. And again, we don't have to get super deep, but I'm not sure if there's like one or two or three that you're like, these are the metrics that we see the more, a more repeatable and more kind of trackable performance to then drive more pipeline.
So the first thing I would suggest anybody do is truly identify your ICP. And I mean, you got to get to the right fit customers, and not just customers that are a good fit for you to sell to, but that they're actually going to be customers that can be long-term. The LTV, CLTV can be, long-term. And you've got to constantly be testing your product market fit, because like there's something like, I'm going to butcher this, there's like $70 billion a year spent on features in software products that nobody uses or cares about.
Yeah.
There's $32 billion that's spent on cancer research by the American Cancer Association. So this whole idea of chasing product market fit and having a year-long product launch schedule, you got to be iterating based upon what the market's giving you. You can't force your product into the market, and everybody's kind of ways in that which they're interacting with messaging is getting so so all over the place. And so that's probably the first thing, is just really to truly and enrich everything. Understand where your past customers, have they gone on to another company? Are they so I call it skip tracing, but that's a negative connotation. But
yeah.
And then the land and expand. If you do have enterprise customers and you do have multiple locations and or folks across the country, then really look at how can you do a coordinated strategy to be able to build upon the good value generated with some of those people to be able to expand across the enterprise. And that's a lot of what we're doing, is like really retail, new acquisition, and then just really buckling down on the ability to expand within those logos that maybe do have a goodwill.
Yeah. No, I love it. I appreciate that, because we could have gone super deep on unpacking all the data and everything like that. But let's kind of zoom out a little bit, and I guess because you just acquired a business earlier this year, you've already done some tuck-ins, you have some experience kind of in the VC world. Like, what if somebody's listening to this and they're interested in starting a business, buying a business? Like, what are you seeing in the market as we're recording this in kind of early October 2025? Who knows what, 2025 was supposed to be this banner year for private equity and venture capital, buying and selling and all that, and hasn't turned out that way. Now people are like 2026, and it's always 2 quarters away, right? So what are you seeing with the folks that you're talking to, both on the VC side, but also, as you're looking at companies to buy? I'm just kind of curious what you're seeing in the broader kind of market.
A lot of consolidation, a lot of I've got 3 platform companies or portfolio companies, and let's go find a home with maybe 2 or 3 other ones, then consolidated and be more capital efficient and operationally efficient. If I'm somebody starting out today, number one, I would say that you got to kind of accept who you are. So, are you the engineering lead? Are you going to be an engineering-led company, and is that who you are as a person, or your founding team? and then don't anticipate that you're going to be able to put some sort of marketing budget, sales plan into your spreadsheet and say, oh yeah, all we got to do is go spend $5 million and we're going to get X number of customers and then we're going to have this. Like, you need to really have a really good understanding of what it really costs and the challenges today in terms of having a customer acquisition motion. And, look, I think that there's still a lot of really good venture capitalists and people that are extremely interested in being a part of that whole entrepreneurial journey and the opportunity to be a part of that. And then, I'm a little down on some of the incubators because I think that model's gotten a little diluted. It used to be that it was more of a closed group of people, and now some of these incubators are so large that they're just a factory
Yeah.
of maybe somewhat good ideas that then get kind of stuck on a shelf somewhere. So, but I still think there's a lot of opportunity. And then, like I mentioned before, we're looking at like alternative financing, non-dilutive financing sources. Raising capital in a private public way in terms of doing a Reg CF offering through a broker dealer where you can offer equity directly to non-accredited investors in the marketplace up to $5 million. So there are a lot of different ways in which you can raise capital today, and those relationships that have all been brought on kind of by the democratization of access to finance, which
Yeah.
started with crypto and is kind of just moved across the board.
Explain the Reg CF thing. I not heard of that, so I may be late to the party. But how does that work? What's the benefit if you're a founder or a VC firm that wants to raise money in that way?
So so basically, the rules changed. I forget when, but they started to allow for basically crowdfunding, and
Mm,
then you had these crowdfunding platforms, but to do a more institutional level, full SEC regulated, a broker dealer, all of the trappings of basically running a real process that runs, right in. And the baseline is you can raise 1.235 million uh, without audited financials, and then you can raise up to 5 million with audited financials. So that's if you're an established business. And basically you set up a landing page, you set up your marketing, and you go to market and you invite people similar to like the Green Bay Packers have their fans
yeah.
being a part of their investment. But in this scenario, it allows you to really, 25% of publicly traded companies today are zombies.
Mm,
They're not even functional businesses. So this is a great way to go out to the market to be able to bring in retail investors directly, and then to build up this kind of fan base within those investors to where those folks come along and are your biggest supporters, as opposed to there being all of these different layers between you and the retail investor, the financial firms, the broker dealer, the deal maker, this, that, the other. By the time it actually gets to the public, there's been multiple layers of arbitrage that have taken huge amounts of money off the table that then make the share price have to be higher than it would have had to have been if it was just direct to a retail investor. It's kind of the Robin Hood approach. Like,
got it.
imagine that you're able to just go to Robin Hood and sell your equities there.
Interesting. Got it. And to set something like that up, you've got to go. You said you've got to go through a broker dealer to set up that crowdfunding structure.
Yeah, there's like around 13 platforms out there. Your most well known is probably Republic, which started
Oh,
out
okay.
more as like a Kickstarter, and they're now doing like token offerings and a bunch of other stuff. We chose to work with Dealmaker, which is a Toronto-based broker dealer, but they have some slick software,
Mm,
and so you pay an upfront fee, They take you through all of your filings. They set up everything. They handle all of the equity purchasing. They handle all of the shareholder communications, the transfer agent, all of that stuff, so that it's all handled and it's all regulatory, and compliant.
Got it. Interesting.
We could
I
geek out
want
on
to.
that all day long. It's like,
Yeah, no, my brain is definitely churning, and I don't want to get too deep into that because we may not come out the other side, unfortunately. But I wanted to go back to kind of your strategy around tuck-ins and things like that. And a lot of companies right now, if they're private equity backed or even VC backed, and they're not selling, a lot of them are getting some reinvestment from their original PE to buy other businesses, tuck them in. What are some things that you've seen or that maybe you would recommend, a CEO or a founder that's like, hey, maybe I'll buy this business because it adds a feature or it adds talent or whatever the reason you're buying it. Like, what are the key things to consider kind of as you're evaluating what type of a tuck-in or roll up to do? And then once you get that thing across the finish line, you purchase it, like there's an integration process that has to happen from a people perspective, from a tech perspective, et cetera. Like, so before the sale, like, how do you think about it and how do you evaluate your business to see if it's ready or appropriate for to bring in another company? And then maybe a tip or trick around best ways to integrate.
I mean, I would say that the number one thing is really focusing on making sure that so let's say that you're acquiring a business that has 3 investors that have put in, X amount of money. And 2 of them are institutional, maybe one of them's an angel investor, or you could have even more. So number one, you've got to be like you've got to make sure that you and their institutional investors, if they have them, or the founder, truly understand where the company's at. So if the company's, growing but isn't isn't profitable, and is stuck on the cash side of it, and you got to just really be honest with each other in terms of like, hey, we're not perfect. We haven't figured all this stuff out, but we think you'd be a great part of the team, and we can figure this stuff out together. I think what I've seen a lot of deal flow is you have a lot of folks. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm Gen X, and you've got some folks that are in that baby boomer to late Gen X area that like have built businesses, and they don't want to go through the AI super system.
Yep.
Like, they've been through the internet super system, the mobile super system. Now we have the AI super system, and everything is being thrown on its head. So I think that there's a lot of like really interested companies out there that are good companies that are looking for a way in which they can find a home for their company, their employees, their teams, but at the same point can be a part of that, but perhaps retire. And then, you're going to probably the one thing that you're going to see on everybody is you have to get an independent engineering and technology assessment. Because if you send in your team, they're going to go in there and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this company is even working. They built it in, this language, and they don't have any integrations, and they're not microservices. We're going to have to rebuild the whole thing. And 90% of the time, that's just, I love my engineering guys and gals, but that's just them kind of pissing on each other's stuff.
Got it.
And at the end of the day, you just need to really say, what is the absolute minimum necessary to ensure business continuity? And in fact, you hear me say that word all of the time when I'm talking to my teams. It's all about business continuity. You don't want anything to break because there's going to be blame that's going to go back and forth between the companies as to whose fault that is. And you just don't need that type of stuff when you're trying to do it. When you're trying to get everybody fired up,
Yeah. And then what about any kind of like 1 or 2 things to think about from okay, we agree, everybody understands where the business is, we sign the docs, and now we're starting to integrate. We're starting to, pull over data. We're starting to integrate people. Teams are talking. How do you kind of make sure that that is as smooth of a process as possible?
I typically employ a third party. Uh, we have a firm that we use. We migrated in total, and I went from January 29th being gainfully unemployed to February 1st having all these companies and people, and we had to migrate about 3 terabytes of data and
Wow.
migrate everybody and all of that sort of thing. So typically I look to use a DevOps professionals that really know how to do that sort of thing, because that, if you start having people that they can't access their workstation, they can't, the email's not working, all of this stuff, just, I'm like, that's going to be a killer. So
Yeah.
really making sure that you make sure that those that like you can get that business continuity, like people feel as if nothing's changed.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the critical pieces. And then, just making sure that one of the things that I always do when I would do a turnaround is I would try to talk to every single employee in the first 100 days. And so, I've done up to 147 one-on-ones in 100 days with
Wow.
companies, and just really talk to folks that are at the front lines, that are in the day-to-day, customer facing, sales facing, whatever, and have them tell you what they think needs to happen or where the challenges are. And then you'll start to find that 3 or 4 people will say the same thing, and then you'll start to realize, okay, that really is a challenge that multiple people have been seeing, but
Yeah.
management's not addressing. So that's a way to find out where those skeletons are, in a way that it also allows people to have a voice. I mean, I've had employees that literally had worked at a company for 2 years. They were overseas. Nobody had ever called them for management. The person
Wow.
actually cried on the other end of the phone when I called her, because she was like, "I'm so happy that I didn't even know that anybody knew that I existed."
Right.
And her feedback was like incredible, like, because she had seen it all and just
Yeah.
worked through it. So
Yeah. No, I think that's important to your point. Let people talk about the things that they're seeing, because if you're set up in your ivory tower, you're not going to see what's going on in the day to day, right? So I think
and
that's
everybody's
important.
selling you, right? Like when you have a person that's your boss, inadvertently or non-intentionally, I mean, some people have that sociopathic tension, but people are always trying to impress and put the best light on things, when in actuality, a lot of times it's the person that is willing to not put the best light on things, tell it like it is, that can be the situation to where you can really make the most gains in terms of that new entity or that integration.
Yeah. No, I love it. I appreciate the story and kind of getting deep on some of these things. I guess, as we kind of round out the episode, we're, like I said before, we're recording this in October 2025. If we jumped on a podcast a year from now, what's 1 or 2 big things that you're trying to achieve with Springbot, that would, make that conversation, really, really exciting.
Um, I try not to think too far into the future. People. Uh, I This is how I live my life, my business life. I think the app and web economy is going to go away in 18 months.
Okay.
So what would I be doing today? What would me 18 months from now say to me today that I should be doing today in order to prepare for those types of seismic things? Do I think that's going to happen? No. Could it happen in 5 years, 3 years? Who knows? But the whole point is, like, it takes about 18 months for the current market conditions to filter into the broader economy.
Okay.
So try and pay attention to what little signs you're seeing under kind of the hood relative to the economics, and what are the little signals you're getting, and think that there's a good chance that those are going to be amplified to the nth degree in 18 months. And I'll use the example of like the end of free money. When we started to see that capital cost went from 2% to 16, there there's no way that isn't going to have an enormous, profound impact to everyone,
Right.
from credit cards to bank financing. And so, I started preparing myself in terms of, we are now in the end of free money. We are in a super expensive capital environment, and those sources of capital that I'm potentially am going to need in the future are going to be super expensive. So I need to make sure that I'm being very capital efficient today, because that is the eventuality. Which, it doesn't take a genius to say that I predicted that. I mean, prices go up X amount, it's going
Right.
to relate to everything being more difficult.
Yeah. No, I like it. It makes a ton of sense. Mark, it's been awesome to have you on the podcast. I want to round this thing out like I do every episode with a 3-pack of questions. First question here: what is a book or podcast that you found helpful or that you enjoy that you would recommend to the audience?
So my wife has started to enforce a strict bedtime for me. So I
Okay,
actually have started reading books again.
nice.
And then I've tried to bifurcate that between business, type of books, and then those that are just kind of pure pleasure. The founder of Palantir, how do you say it? Palantir?
Palantir. Yeah.
Palantir. Okay. Uh, it's called The Technological Republic, which talks a lot about Silicon Valley and technology's role in terms of the United States as a republic,
Hmm.
and how it evolved from Silicon Valley used to be about solving really big global kind of American experiment type projects, putting a person on the moon, et cetera, et cetera. Then there was this huge shift to placating the masses with consumer bubblegum,
Hmm.
which is the Facebooks, giving them 50 dopamine hits a day. They're not
Yep.
solving any problems; they're creating problems. So that's pretty interesting from a perspective of thinking about technology as a integral driver in terms of this American experiment. That's what they call it, the American project. Another book is called The End of Average,
Okay.
which is kind of dated, but it tracks how AI and machine learning infiltrated the chess world,
Oh
and
yeah.
it draws parallels in terms of our current environment and people's perceptions of AI. But now I think ChatGPT 5 point whatever today solves some algebraic equation that previously had never been able to be solved by a
Hmm.
machine. Same thing with like chess, but the comment that I'll leave your listeners with is, if you view intelligent machines as competitively, you don't have a future in business. If you view intelligent machines as working with them cooperatively, you have a bright future. And so that was really kind of a calling point that they made
Yeah.
in that
No, it's
book.
awesome. I'll have to check that out. I hadn't heard of that book. Love it. All right, second question here. What is your favorite thing to do outside of work?
So that's my only decent interview question that I ever ask anybody in
Yeah.
a employee job interview is, so what do you do when you're not doing X?
Right.
And typically I try to hire people that have a life and have interests outside. In fact, I'm probably one of the only guys or leaders that actually encourages side hustles. So
Hmm.
if you tell me, hey, I've got this clothing line that I'm launching online and I've been working on it for 2 years, and I do it, when I'm not working, I'm like pumped. I'm like, tell me more about that. That really makes me excited that somebody has that kind of entrepreneurial energy.
Yeah.
For me, outside of work, I try to do a lot of, I play a lot of tennis.
Okay.
And that's helped me to keep a 26-year marriage going. My wife and I play. Our family plays, and so I try to do that. And then my wife and I here live in Austin. My kids are kind of empty nesters at this point, so we have 3 dogs, which you heard earlier. I apologize for that.
That's fine.
And so we spend a lot of time just in Austin, really trying to explore different parts of the city. And then, I mean, I've been Israel, Cyprus, Turkey. I try to travel to interesting places and get exposure to new cultures, every single year.
That is a perfect segue into the final question, and that is, what is your favorite vacation spot? So if you travel to these cool places, what would you recommend?
I mean, it's, when you have younger kids, it's all about the beach,
Right.
or it's all about the mountains. And then as they get older, then it's about museums, culture, and but I would probably say that the most profound place that I've been is probably Israel. And we went to, we hired a guide that was a Jewish Christian convert, and we went into Jericho, which basically is the oldest city in the world, and it really isn't supposed to be a place that Jews, Christians, and Muslims are supposed to come together. But like, we broke bread with, folks from all over the place with different points of view, rode a camel,
Nice.
and all of that sort of thing. But it really reinforced my hope and my belief that, when you strip away a lot of the noise, there's just a lot of good personal connections, and that people are generally across the globe have the right intention in terms of just trying to live good lives and take care of their families themselves. So that was probably the most profound in terms of being able to see that and experience that.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate that story. That is pretty powerful. And it's also a good way to wrap things up here. So, Marc, really appreciate the time. If people want to, reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing, pick your brain about the Reg CF thing that we were talking about earlier, what's the best way to connect with you?
I would just connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't use it as a much in terms of like prospecting or anything else, but I do use it to communicate with people. And if they PM me or do a connection request and just say that they saw this, then I'll accept it. And if there's any questions or if I can be helpful, I'm always willing to be as helpful as I can be in anybody's kind of entrepreneurial journey. Or any questions, I just don't ask me to make referrals to people too much, because I've been burned by that so much that I literally don't refer anybody to anybody.
Yeah. No, there's always, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you kind of thing, whatever the saying is. So, no, totally appreciate that.
Because Al Pacino said, I'm just too damn old to be, instead of the woman, I'm just too damn old at this point to go through that pain and suffering. But I'm always willing to help, and I will make introductions if it's just something around somebody trying to understand.
Yeah. Awesome. Marc, really appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for being a guest.
Yeah, and thank you and I once again apologize for my dog Buster barking there, but we kept it a little bit lively today.
Yeah, spices things up a little bit. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, Justin. Thank you.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.